Hello, welcome to the Jellyfish Journals. My name is Susie, and I am going to share my reading journal theme for October of this year, 2025. So let's jump right on in. I have been kind of spending a lot of time on Etsy looking for different paper kits and ephemera kits that might lend themselves really well to a monthly theme. And I typically don't match the theme to the season. So I just use what I like. I just use what I think is pretty. And for the month of October, I decided to use this beautiful Dragonfly paper that I found and printed from Etsy. This kit is sold by, I'm not going to say this right, but I'm going to try, Abrutique. I will link it down in the box below. But it came with, I want to say 15 full-size pages like this that are just gorgeous. And I'll talk about my plans for these. And I think it came with 5 pages of envelopes and 5 pages of like fussy cut ephemera type stuff. So I'm going to kind of go through it real quick and just show what comes in this kit. I just love it. I am not likely to use all of these full pages, but what I did love is that these dragonflies, the way that they're printed on this page, I could totally fussy cut these dragonflies and use them as ephemera on my pages. I also love that I could tear this on the side and use parts like this as scrapbook paper for my Dutch doors that are going to work really well as background elements. So I think even though the majority of this kit is like full-size printed sheets, I can still have some fun with this and cut things out and make it my own for the journal. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. These pages are just beautiful. Pages like this, I can totally cut down the middle and trim and use them in my, it's a B6 journal that I use. No, I'm sorry, it's a B5 that I use for my reading journal. Probably wouldn't cut out these dragonflies too much since they're right up on the edge unless I have a specific plan for that. This one leans more towards the blue. I love these flowers. I could see cutting those out and using those as little elements on the sides of the pages. Then some of them have these beautiful windows, and I really would like to kind of incorporate those. I haven't decided if I want this much blue in my theme, but this one is actually really pretty and has those same flower elements. So if I decided to use this in my journal as a background for a page, I might come over here and just cut out these flowers to use to decorate the page next to it. I'm gonna have to play with this a little bit. Here's another double spread. It could work as one all the way across, but since I know I'm not likely to use it that way, I'm more likely to probably use this side. I think these two actually look really nice together. And then cut out the elements instead, like these purple flowers and stuff. Yeah, these are a little bit blue for me. This one could be cool. Well, I don't know if that would work. I was thinking I could cut out this window and do something with it, but with these vines, that might be a little trickier than I was thinking. Got some more of these beautiful flowers, and I don't know about this guy. He's kind of an odd looking bug. Let's see if I can get him in there. He's not that great looking. Over here, there are some butterflies in this kit. I really want to lean more towards the dragonflies, but I like this script writing in the back here. So that could be pretty. And this could also be a really nice, like if this is torn right down this line here, this could make a nice corner of the page. We've got these here, another nice window with some blue. This one might be a little easier to cut out if I wanted to make a window element. I haven't done that in my reading journal yet, but this could work really well for that. It's a little easier to trim around all this. This is really pretty too. And this, again, could look really nice next to that. Like maybe not right next to each other, but kind of keeping that aesthetic going. Then we've got these beautiful dragonflies. So again, this would be really easy to just cut these 3 out and use them as ephemera on the pages. Lots of blue here. I kind of like this little window here. That's kind of neat. But again, this would also work as just like a cutout corner and use this as a corner element somewhere. I'm pretty sure I won't use this. It's a lot of pinks for me. I'm not going to lean that way. I like this kind of look a little bit better. That might be just too much pink for what I want to do. Then we've got these giant guys, which are just so cool. And the good thing about this page is if I need a longer strip, I can always tear all this. And now I have a longer strip for a background or some kind of decor that I want. I could even truly go through here and do the same thing and just cut some ephemera and put it over these little bits of tail if I needed to. This was the one that sold me on the kit. I am going to try to find a way to use this in as much of its entirety as I'm able to. I think this is just so pretty. It's got the browns, the aquas, the bright pink. It's got some purple elements. It's kind of got all the colors I'm hoping to get in there. So this one is my kind of inspiration, the reason I bought the kit. Another beautiful one, lots of blue. This one's really pretty too. It has a lot of pink up this side, but I think this balances that out pretty well. And then we'll get into some of the ephemera. So there's all these little circular elements with dragonflies and some brown in them. This is the only one I don't love. I feel like everything on the sheet kind of makes sense, but this one little bubble here just doesn't quite make as much sense. These have some clocks on them, which is kind of weird, but I'm kind of digging it. So actually all of them do now that I'm looking at it. So I think I'm going to lean into this a bit too, just because I like that little unique aspect of it. We've got these here, which are a little bit smaller. So these would make nice little accents. And then now we're in the envelopes. So these are all meant to be cut out and then folded and glued. I might use them as a pocket. I might just cut out this bit here and use that. I haven't quite decided yet how I want to do that. I've never used these envelopes. I don't think I've ever used them. Got some other envelopes here. Again, this would make a really cool just background piece by itself. This would as well. And this kind of goes along with that inspiration one I really liked. So if I could find a way to just trim it just right, that could be a cool element on the page. And then these I think are just little pockets. It's kind of like repeated as it goes. So I'm not too sure about that. That might be intended for something else that I'm not crafty enough to figure out. And then these are little pockets also. I kind of like how this one's all curved to the side. I mean, this one too. So these I'm kind of leaning more towards. Then we've got these larger pockets. I think I'm definitely going to be doing something with pockets in this spread because there are just so many of them and they are just really beautiful. Then we have these frames, which there's not that much of this purple in all of the other ephemera. And so I'm hoping to maybe just stick one or two of these down here and there. I even had the idea of using, I think it's this one if I turn it this way, for my top reads, putting each of them in a frame. None of them are large enough to use as my reading challenge frame, but I'm going to find something to do with this. The best part is you can trim just out the middle and have the frame, but I really want to incorporate this darker purple. And then we just have some loose dragonflies and a couple little ephemera pieces there. So those are kind of the inspiration, kind of where I'm headed with this. Then as far as washi tape, I have this iridescent washi tape. It's like a purple, which I bought at a yard sale, but I found you can get it at Target. Then I have this glitter pink washi tape. I have this pattern, which is almost empty. So for all those times I say that you will never use up your washi tape, maybe I'm just kidding. I don't know, but it would be so satisfying to use this up. And then just a couple smaller solid washi tapes. I've got the purple and a teal there in case these feel a little busy. I've chosen 3 markers to go along with my theme. So we have Tombow number 407, and then 2 Crayola Super Tips, one which I've named Grape and one which I've named Raspberry. And no, I don't name them all after fruit. That just sort of happened. And finally, I have these 3 dictionary words. I've got lively, which I thought fit a dragonfly. Transform. If you don't know anything about a dragonfly's life cycle, you should really look into it. We read something every year in class about the life cycle of a dragonfly, and it's pretty fascinating. And then finally, we have quick, because if you know anything about a dragonfly, you know they are fast and they definitely move swiftly and with skill. So stick around and let's go ahead and set up for October. As always, I have the chapter number and the month already done ahead of time. Sorry about the dinging. I'm messaging with some people on my team while I record this. I pulled out that Dragonfly printed page that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where I pointed out that if I turned it sideways, I could use the long stretch. And since I like to use some kind of scrapbook paper as a left-handed accent, that didn't come out right, as an accent on the left-handed side of the page, I thought this would actually work perfect as a way to start incorporating all those colors I wanted to focus on in these spreads for October. So hopefully you kind of saw there, I usually just kind of sketch out where the tears need to go. I had to erase them afterward, of course. But I love the torn paper effect. I like that it's kind of forgiving. You'll notice most of the time when I do things, if I don't have lines or dot grid or something to go along with, I tend to prefer bouncier fonts or things that are crooked because it's too stressful to me to try to get it straight. So if all of the edges of something are torn, then it always looks intentional, whether it's a little messed up or not. So I just find it to be a little more forgiving if it looks like it's supposed to be sloppy, I guess. I always measure out where I need to cut on the sides for those Dutch doors. That way I know how much room I'm actually working with when I do these pages. So went ahead and cut that off, and then you'll see behind it, I have these yellow Post-it notes. When I go in ahead of time and do all my headings, sometimes I'm a little nervous that the ink won't be fully dry, so I just put Post-it notes over it so it doesn't smear onto the page before. Now it's time to pull out that purple iridescent washi, and I love that the light's catching it here because then you can kind of see why I picked it. If you've ever seen a dragonfly up close, their wings have this iridescence to them. They're just beautiful. And normally this iridescent washi tape really frustrates me because I want it to be purple, but it always looks more blue, or vice versa, or there's a really pretty pearlescent white one that never actually looks white. But I think in this situation, it's exactly what I wanted it to look like. It's got that shimmer and that little bit of, I don't know, I hate saying magic because dragonflies aren't magical, but there's just something extra beautiful about them. And I just kind of love that the washi pulls that in. I used that grape to color in the month of October to bring in some of that darker purple. And originally this dragonfly was supposed to be on the bottom right, but I didn't think about how it would look with the month October there. And there really wasn't any way to make the month go over the dragonfly. So I had to do a little bit of, I can't think of the word, troubleshooting here. So this clock and my definition were supposed to go at the top where the dragonfly is, but obviously that was not going to work. So I decided to try putting the clock where the month of October is, but the same problem. I couldn't make the month go over the ephemera. So I tried tearing out part of the clock and I just didn't like it. I didn't like the way it looked. Yeah, it was just kind of bugging me. So then I found this piece of ephemera and I thought this could actually work. It goes along really well with the colors on the left-handed side of the page, and all I had to do was tear off that little bit of the corner, and that doesn't bother me at all. I was worried that the definition wouldn't show up very well over there, so I did use that raspberry colored marker to go around the edge so it would show up a little better. I haven't done that in any other spreads, but I do think it was kind of a fun way to mix it up, I guess. Now it's time for the books that I'm planning to read next. So this spread is for, or I should say this page, is for the 4 or 5 books that I know I want to get through in that month. So in October, I do have a fall break where I have a couple of extra days off of work. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a goal of getting through these 5 books in the month of October. These are all going to be physical reads. A couple are from my 25 and 25, and one is my reading challenge book. The other 2 are off of my shelfie. So any digital or audio books I read are going to be extra. These are just print books off of my TBR, and it's kind of my way to make sure I'm always getting through my TBR. So first, after I outline the books, I will go through with a pencil and kind of sketch out the title of the book, and I do try to make it look like the spine of the book. I don't normally add any illustrative elements that might be on the spine. I really try to just keep it to the title. And then I go back with the Pigma Micron 08 size, and I go ahead and darken all of those in. Next, I am going to use some of that glitter pink washi. And let me tell you guys, glitter washi is not my favorite because nothing really sticks to it. It will stick to the page fine, but you can't really layer elements over it very well. But in this situation, it's really perfect. Again, it adds a little bit of that magical, sparkly look that dragonflies tend to have. And it just kind of adds like a little fun pop, I guess. It sounds so cheesy. My reading challenge is to read a book with an ugly cover. That was the ugliest cover I could find on my bookshelf. So I'll come back to that page in just a minute and talk about that a little bit more. This washi tape I had to peel very slowly. So this washi tape is pretty old. And I have noticed that as washi tape ages, not only does the adhesive change, so I want to say it gets stickier where it's a little harder to remove it. Like if you stick it down on the paper and leave it and peel it up, it might peel up some of the paper with it. But also it tears so much easier. So I had to like go really, really slowly, and thank goodness this is sped up a little bit. But that was the only way I was going to be able to get those long strips that I needed in order to run down the sides of the page. I wanted it to look like that blue washi was going behind the books. So after I laid it down over the books, I'm just kind of trimming out around the edges of the books with the craft knife. And you'll see in a moment that once I've trimmed all the way down to that glitter washi, I'll pull up the washi tape that's over the books. And then you'll see it makes it look like the other washi is going behind the books. And this is where you can see on the dead husband, it did peel up some of what I did. So I had to go back and, kind of redo some of the titles of those books. All right, for that reading challenge, I had to read a book with an ugly cover. I did go through my TBR, my physical shelves, and that was the ugliest cover I could find. If you've watched any of my videos, I've probably said it a million times that I am a cover girl. I love a good cover, and I will totally judge a book by its cover. This must have either been given to me or I found it in a little free library, and I was just itching for something to add to my shelf because this is not a book that sells me on the cover whatsoever. So it worked out because I needed a book with an ugly cover, and now I had one. My hope is that what's inside the book is amazing so that I will not have to judge the book by its cover. Although I guess technically I've already done that if I picked it up, or I'm sorry, if I named it for this spread. I pulled out a few little dragonflies and glued those down after adding those raspberry lines at the top, and now it's on to my new books. So pulling out that glitter washi again, I'm going to run that down the side. And you might notice that's a recurring theme. I like to do that in my spreads. Whatever I do on one Dutch door, I really do want to repeat that on the other Dutch doors. And again, it makes you feel like you are still in the same theme. Using those same elements and using them in the same way can help you feel like, oh, I'm still in those October pages. So it isn't just about leaning on the color choices, but those repeated elements. I pulled out that washi tape at the beginning of this video, and 2 of them I didn't even end up using. I really did stick to the glitter washi, the iridescent washi, and that old blue washi tape pattern. And that's all I needed. Hey, you guys see my new scissors there? My mom just got those for me. They're so stinking cute. I told her I feel so fancy now. All right, I'm happy with my idea for my new book spread. I showed you guys this printed page in the beginning of the video, and I really wanted to use this paper. So I had this idea that if I cut this out and cut out the window in the middle, but like left one side attached so it became like a door, then I could put my new books list under the window. So it's kind of like you're opening the window. So I tore the side just to keep a little bit of that torn page element going throughout the spreads. Like I said, repeating elements, repeating design styles, those kinds of things keep it cohesive. And I'm going to just go ahead and cut 3 sides of this window. And it's going to chop the flowers and it's going to chop some other things, but you'll see in a minute, really, it makes no difference. It really doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to go ahead and try to keep it straight. And you're going to see in a minute I did a terrible job because my window is very crooked. And you know what? I don't care. So the idea is that this little flap is where you'll open to look underneath to find the new books that I acquire in October. So I laid that paper down and I just kind of penciled out a guide of where that window would be open so that I would know where to make my stripes or my lines. And I'm just using that blue color to go every other line. I did need to add a couple extra lines. And this part was a little tricky, to be honest, to line it up well so that the lines showed up fine. But in the end, I was able to get that stuck down pretty well. All right, on my top reads page, I always document my top 3 reads of the month. It doesn't mean my highest rated reads, although it always is my highest. I guess what I mean is sometimes I have more than 3 5-star reads in a month. I tend to be a generous star rater, but it means the 3 that stuck out the most, the 3 that resonated the most, I enjoyed the most, I'll recommend the most, however you want to look at that. So I made my boxes, and those 3 blue boxes are where the covers of my top reads are going to go. And now I'm just adding some of these circular dragonfly elements. And this is where things start to get a little crazy. For whatever reason, I struggled to pre-plan this page. So whatever you see me doing now, I am truly just winging it. No pun intended. Actually, I should say pun intended. Somebody told me once you should always own your puns. So I did know that I wanted a clock element on this page, so that was pretty much a given. And the rest of the page looked kind of empty, so I just started going crazy with these circles. And you'll see I'm gluing them down, and then I'm just kind of trimming where that box would be. That way it looks like the circles are laying behind those boxes. And I worked quick enough that I didn't have to worry about the glue drying or ripping the paper at all. A couple of places I didn't cut it properly, so I just had to use that blue marker to go back and kind of fill in so it looked like the box truly went all the way over the circular element. All right, and I honestly, guys, I just keep going. I was trying to line the circles up where those dragonflies would still be showing so it wouldn't be just like a weird brown spot or a pink spot. And I think what I ended up not loving about this are those 3 horizontal circles right there in the middle. It doesn't look as random, I guess, as I would have wanted it to. It's not something to stress over. There haven't really been any spreads in this journal where I've been like, I wish I would have thought that through or done it a little differently. And this is definitely one of them. Oh, there I go. So you can see I just kept touching it up. Some of the circles I was able to get more than one little spot out of. So this one I'm working on here on this bottom right of the page actually had 3 dragonflies on it. So here's another one. And I just kind of used all 3 of those. So that way I didn't have to keep cutting out full circles that were going to have to be trimmed anyway. So yeah, trying to see. Oh yeah, I do remember now. That one gave me some trouble. I think I was afraid to cut too deep because I didn't want to mess up the washi. So, all right. So that's pretty much how the page ends up. I got to trim the little bits that are sticking off the top. I still love doing that. It's so satisfying. It ends up making the page look more finished. And now we're on to my stats page. So as always, trimming off that little bit that I need for my Dutch door. And now I'm going to take that purple iridescent washi, and I'm going to say I'm really happy with how this spread turns out. I went around the entire border with the iridescent washi, and then cutting inner corner to outer corner at a diagonal with my craft knife and pulling off the extra tape, I was able to make those really nice 45-degree corners or angle cuts so that it looks more like a frame. Then I put a lot of glue on the page, and here is that one piece of printable page that I told you was my absolute favorite. I am so happy, guys, that I did find a way to incorporate it, but truly sometimes if there is something that you are determined has to be in there, start with that. I'm pretty sure I came to this page first because it was the only one I could see myself using that as a full piece of printed paper. And then I played with the rest of the ephemera. So these items were claimed. I used an envelope element, or a pocket element, I guess is probably more accurate, and glued that down on the bottom left there because the left-hand side of the page was just pretty brown. So it was okay to cover up some of that. And then I trimmed up some of this blue paper that was also part of the kit. And now it's just time to write down all the categories for my stats. So I always record books read, pages read, new books acquired, whether those books were read in print, digital, or audio, and how many books I did not finish. And I just do a little bit of foligraphy here to make that work. And that little piece is going to go in that pocket, and that's where my stats are going to be. I think there was a little too much blue at the top, so I did trim that down a little bit, but that's going to be my stats page. And finally, I am on to my books read. This is where I will glue all of the covers of the books that I've read in the month of October, along with making a little note of how many stars I gave each book and the format I read the book in. So before I do that, I'm going to start adding some decorative elements down. First is going to be that blue printed washi, and I think I mentioned it earlier, but I'm kind of sad to say I still haven't used the whole thing up. I'm ready to just find a way to use it and be done with it. I think I've only ever finished one whole roll of washi before, and it was very satisfying, and I think I need that fix again. So so this was that other page I showed in the beginning that I absolutely loved. And I'm just going to add a little bit of a tear down the side to continue that torn paper look. And you'll notice that since it was a horizontal printed page, it doesn't quite go to the top. So I decided to use one of those larger Dragonfly frames to cover up that part on the top right. That way you can't tell. That way that whole side of the page has been done. Because if you remember, with all those Dutch doors, everything on this last page on the right side is going to show when all those Dutch doors are flipped to the right. So I wanted to make sure that that whole right side was covered. I did find a way to use that clock element that I loved so much, and I brought in another one of those dark purple frames just to again keep some of that look going in the book, in the journal. I also outlined this word transform for this page, so that would show up, and that reminded me that I almost forgot this definition, which I thought didn't need to be outlined. It shows up pretty well right there on the stats page. The last thing I needed to do was trim the very top of that frame that I added on the book's red page, and sorry that's a little off camera there, but I think by now you guys know what I'm doing. And that's going to do it for this last spread in my October pages. All right, so I know I say this every month, but I am really, really happy with how this turned out. So we've got my title page, monthly page to get us started. Then over here, we've got the books that I plan to read next. A couple of these are off of my 25 and 25, and then one of them is my STORYGRAPH reading challenge, which will be put over here. So I'll write a little bit about it, and this is where the cover of the book will go. Then on this page, this is where I will record new books. If you open the window, I will write them inside the window here. So I'm kind of happy with how that came out. That's kind of neat. And then this page I'm still not loving. This sort of just evolved on the spot. I'm going to leave it. It is what it is. I also realized too late that I did not leave any space for my 5-star rating, but so far every month my top reads have all been 5 stars, so whatever. And that's where those covers will go. This page is for my stats for the month. This was my favorite printable page or printed page from the kit. And my stats will just be on this little slip here that goes in this pocket. And finally, this is where I will glue the covers of all the books that I read in the month of October with their rating and the format that I read them in. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you would like to see more, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.